Okay, folks, it is Sunday, September 29th, 2024. Hello to everybody on TikTok that's on my TikTok live. Anybody that's following me on checking us out live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, God knows, Twitch. I think we're live on Twitch as well. I'm a kind of a big deal, obviously. Just kidding. But welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us, whether you happen to be live on TikTok or YouTube, anywhere else. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the DPF Guys channel on YouTube so you don't miss any of our future content. And if you can spare 3/10 of a second to tap on that like button wherever you might be, it helps a ton, makes me feel good, and keeps the algorithms happy. So who are we? If you don't know who we are, shame on you. You should know that already. But I am James, your DPF guy. We focused 100% on diesel aftertreatment services for anything with a diesel engine and an emission systems. Most of our customers are fleets, owner-operators, mechanics, but we also service aftertreatment for diesel passenger vehicles, SUVs, that sort of thing. Your pickup truck, your F-250s, 350s, your Ram 2500s, etc. But off-road equipment like your tractors, agriculture stuff is a big deal for us. Excavators, earth movers, skid steers, and more. We even handle equipment that doesn't move, stationary equipment like generators, rock crushers, and beyond. If it has a DPF, we can clean it. If you have a DPF, call or text us at 404-999-1361. Again, 404-999-1361 for more info to answer any questions you might have. So stay tuned until the end, where we'll spin the wheel and see which two lucky people who submitted a question during the week will win a hat or a DPF testing refractometer. And don't forget, feel free to drop your thoughts and questions in the chat, wherever it might be, up, down, sideways throughout the session. Disclaimer, as always, talk to your mechanic about any concerns you have with your engine or truck, and any pricing discussed here may or may not apply to you and should only be used as a guideline. We'll definitely give you an estimate for your specific job when the time comes, but anything we talk about here is not an official quote for any services by DPF Guys or anyone else, because what we charge you might be less or a little bit more, different. But let's wang through these. And hey, as I was saying, I am live on TikTok. I want to make sure we have our friends on TikTok join us. So let's bring that up here. I'm going to run through 10 questions that came in throughout the week, and I'm going to do that fairly quickly. And then my friends on TikTok who are over here, closer to my big head, can fire off some questions for me as well, and I'll answer those all live. So my friends on TikTok, if you want to actually see me looking in the eye as I read these questions and answers, and you can watch on YouTube. And then Jose, I'll be to your question about a fuel additive, etc. We'll definitely touch on that as well. So let's get fired up here. We've got question number one from Arma Northeast from YouTube. How much is just one box without DPF filter Freightliner Cascadia 2016 Detroit engine? Let me pull that up here. Hang on a second. I'm getting so excited about talking to you guys, I forgot to actually show you the question. All right. So how much is just one box without DPF filter Freightliner Cascadia 2016 Detroit engine? So this is a good question. Now, we'd prefer to sell the one boxes fully loaded, which means you get the one box, the heat shield, the bolts and clips, all of your clamps and gaskets, inlet clamps and gaskets, and brand new DPF filters. The whole thing is covered by a 1-year unlimited mileage warranty. Now, that's fully loaded. Now, you can get a unloaded one box, definitely. But what it comes down to is, if you get a brand new one box and want to reuse your filters, we'll totally do that. So I'm not going to prevent you from doing that, but it makes a lot more sense to get the fully loaded thing, warranty on the whole shebang and everything else. Because remember, if you get an unloaded one box and put your filters in, there'll be labor to put the filters into the one box. There'll be clamps and gaskets required, which is another $400 or so. What it comes down to is a fully loaded one box from us. And this number might be, it's close. You're looking at about $8,000, $8,500 for a fully loaded one box with a full, end-to-end 3-year warranty and limited miles. And by the time all is said and done, if you put your filters into a brand new one box, it's cheaper, but you only save about $800 when everything is all said and done. So realistically, I always recommend getting the fully loaded one box. A lot of people will ask for, oh, if you hear tapping or drilling or anything like that, we've got an electrician working up in the attic. Shout out to Dave, the electrician. Um, if you hear that, don't let it bother you. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is you know, a lot of people will say, well, look, I've got this, and it's usually the 2014, 15s or 16 Freightliners that cause this issue. And they're desperately trying to resolve the problem without replacing their one box. So they replace their inlet knock sensor, their outlet knock sensor. They put new filters in. They do all of this stuff, and then find out, dang it, I've got to get a new one box. And they don't want to waste the money they spent on the filters. So they often want to get an unloaded one box without filters and put theirs in it. We'll totally do that. But like I said, when it comes right down to it, especially if you've got to get those filters cleaned again, um, you're the difference is so small. We just recommend getting the fully loaded one box, and then keeping your spare filters as spares, or selling them, or having us buy them. And then, of course, the warranty applies to everything, including the filters. One thing to remember whenever there's any sort of DPF warranty, the warranties are always pretty generous. They're pretty long, unlimited mileage, everything else. Um, and that's because the odds are in our favor that we'll never have never have a warranty issue, because really there's not much that can go wrong with it. And what will happen is, maybe the problem that burnt up the one box in the first place hadn't been resolved. If a future failure, um, the warranty is really ironclad. We'll definitely cover it if it's something that's covered. But if you have an issue in your engine, turbo goes out, injectors, injector cups, misfires, def in the fuel tank, that sort of stuff. Those things aren't covered, unfortunately. Um, so anyway, so that's that. So yes, we can get you a one box, brand new, without filters. You can put your filters in it, but the difference between what you spend for a complete one box with filters, brand new filters, warranty on everything, versus taking your filters off of out of your existing one box and putting them in, um, is generally less than $1,000. So I recommend that people get the fully loaded one box. I hope that helps, Armand Northeast. And anybody on TikTok, if you have any questions about one boxes, I'd be happy to answer those as well. Okay, number two, another YouTube one. This is this is actually one that's slightly inappropriate, but I thought it kind of made me laugh, so I put it up here. Um, and this is from Jorge Ruiz 5570. Autotech Transport. Sir, thank you so very much for all the great info, but I gotta ask, what's with all the 70s porn music in the background? Well, I wasn't always a DPF guy, and no, I'm just teasing. I actually didn't have an adult career, but why wouldn't I? Look at me. So apparently, one of my YouTube videos, the music that we chose sounds a little bow chicka bow bow, and it wasn't intentional, but I'm glad it brought back some memories. Um, and that's a subject for a totally different video. Um, but maybe I need to upgrade my music selection. But that 70s bounce, bounce, yeah, that was a whole nother genre, right, Brian? Um, okay, what is number three? All right, what do we got here? Number three. Um, Terry Bowen from Facebook. Just came across you on YouTube. I have a 2025 Pete with an X15. I put 50,000 miles on it since I got it new. I've been using, yeah, Max. It's from Facebook. I've been using Max Mileage, Pittsburgh Power. How does it compare to the additive you promote? Um, Now, I want to be, just completely transparent and honest here. We do sell Clean Air Fleet, and it is obviously not the only additive on the market. There's some good ones. Max Mileage is one of them. Hot Shot Secret, good company. But the difference that the biggest thing we can talk about is, the max mileage additive is a catalyst, and its goal is to basically get the diesel fuel to combust, um, more easily, more hot. And that additional, that more efficient combustion produces less soot, more heat downstream to kind of better regen things. And if your only goal was to maybe get a little more fuel economy and reduce the amount of ash that is in your DPF, I would say, all things being equal, we're pretty much, on an equal playing field there. A lot of people really like Pittsburgh Power, and if you like it, by all means, keep using it. Now, this is where things the timeline kind of splits. Um, so you're going to get the same benefit of the catalytic action in the fuel, um, but the two the products kind of get to that goal using a different methodology. Pittsburgh Power uses like organic metals, and I'm not sure if it could be ferrocene, it could be there's several different things that they use, and the there's nothing inherently wrong with going that route, but you have to be very careful to not overdose your additive, which, with Pittsburgh Power or other additives like them which are maybe $300 a gallon, you definitely wanna be stingy with it, but it's easy to overdose it because it requires such a small amount. And overdosing a metal-based catalyst can definitely cause some damage downstream, can cause metals to build up in the engine, can cause some damage to the DPF and DOC. Again, used properly, you shouldn't have any issue at all. So I'm not trying to say that it's going to do this by default. So if you do use a max mileage, be very, stick to the dosing level. Whatever it says to use that. Don't use more. Um, Now, with Clean Air Fleet, because they don't use the organic metals, the metals as the catalyst, you can overdose it and not do any harm whatsoever. So that's good. The only harm you would do is you kind of waste it because you're supposed to use, 1 gallon of, the ratio 1 gallon of the additive for 320 gallons of diesel fuel. And, let's say you did, you doubled that or tripled that. Wouldn't hurt anything at all, but it's just wasting the additive. So that's number one. So similar, we're going to get a better fuel burn with it, increase the cetane, reduce ash output, extend the life of your DPF as long as possible, but you don't have to worry about potentially overdosing and getting additional metals into your engine system. So that's, they're kind of horse apiece there. But Clean Air Fleet, I'm going to forget. I guarantee I'm going to forget one thing that it does, but it also does additional things that if you use just a catalytic fuel additive like a max mileage, you would have to use an anti-gel if you're going someplace cold that doesn't have winterized diesel. So you'd have to buy the anti-gel. The anti-gel features are built right into the Clean Air Fleet products. You don't have to worry about an anti-gel. Clean Air Fleet also has what's called a demulsifier. And what a demulsifier is just the opposite of an emulsifier. If you emulsify something, you're blending it, you're mixing it together. But it has a demulsifier for water. So what it does is it drops the water out of your fuel. And you don't want to have any water in that fuel because if you ever do have water in the fuel, you'll notice that your engine, kind of sputters. And what that is the water being injected from your fuel injector, and that's really bad. It'll blow the tips off your fuel injector. That water turns into steam. It's not good for anything. So you want to get that water out, and you want a demulsifier that'll drop the water out so it can be caught by your Davco. So that's number two. We got increased cetane catalyzation. That's a benefit. You have the getting the water out of your fuel. Um, uh, and then also back in the day, before they had ultra low sulfur fuel, the sulfur actually acted kind of like ball bearings, kind of like acted like a lubricant. Clean Air Fleet adds that lubricity back in, and that's going to help all of these moving parts in your fuel system, especially with the common rail and very high pressures. You want to make sure that you keep that fuel pump really well lubricated. If you keep the moving parts in the injectors from getting sticky, it'll help with that. And if anybody who's a Clean Air Fleet user or expert knows all these things, I'm probably going to miss one of them. Don't be mad at me. The other thing is we got lubricity in a better combustion. Um, we have water displacement, water demulsification, and we also have the uh, the breakup of what are called asphaltenes. Asphaltene is literally kind of like it sounds, like asphalt. It's like a tar that is normally in crude oil, and that is refined out. But the asphaltenes are formed under pressure and heat. And guess what's going on in your diesel engine? You got pressure and heat, and it forms asphaltenes. And a lot of people will think that it's a it's an LJ building up. It literally can look like a black slime that builds up in your fuel, and this will break up that asphaltene. In fact, if like in this guy's case, Terry's case from Facebook, his 2025 Pete would not have enough miles on it to have this happen. But what I do see is somebody with a high mileage truck that starts using Clean Air Fleet. What happens after a tank or so of diesel? They will notice that potentially the performance will start to decrease. And when they call, I always say, check your fuel filter, because what will happen is when you start using an additive like Clean Air Fleet that breaks up all of that gunk starts to come out of your fuel, and it starts to break loose from other parts of your engine, the tips of your injectors, etc. And guess what? Ends up in your fuel filter. And so that's a good sign. It means it's working. But basically replace your fuel filter, keep using the additive, and head on down the road. Right, Brian? I've got Brian Bond, a friend and customer of mine, 2016 Freightliner Cascadia, did a new one box. He's a user of the Clean Air Fleet, not just the additive, but also the bypass oil filter. And the miles he goes between oil changes now is just insanity. It's pretty impressive. Okay, so that's number 3. Let's move on to number 4. This one came in from LinkedIn. I'm actually pretty cool. I'm excited about that. John Lamar. Hey, Jim, my question is, why do diesel truck drivers leave their engine running seemingly all day rather than wait until they're needed? Hope all is well. This is a good question. And, and I'm going to answer it. I'm not a driver, so I'm just going to say this is what I would believe would be the case. First and foremost, the truck is basically, is running, 12, 14 hours a day. It's what you're allowed to run that thing for before you have to rest. So half the day, that truck is just going to be pulling something. And if you're a driver, you're not making money. If your wheels aren't turning, you aren't earning. And then when you do have to pull off the road to rest, to sleep, do your paperwork, that sort of stuff, your truck is your house. And if you're someplace hot, you need to stay cool, so you need to run the truck for that. If you're someplace cool and you want to be warm, you need to run the truck for that. If you want to make some popcorn or something, you need to have the truck running for that. And the trucks are designed to idle like that. Ideally, you want to have an APU, an auxiliary power unit, which will be either completely electrically powered or a small 3-cylinder diesel engine, usually 3-cylinder diesel engine. And a much smaller engine that sips fuel, and that way you can turn off that big motor and then run off the APU, and that APU will keep you warm, keep you cool, pop your popcorn, run your TV, etc. So yeah, they basically run those engines all the time if they don't have an APU, because you're either driving or you're just living your life trying to sleep comfortably, or pop your popcorn and watch a little Netflix. So trucks that have an APU don't have to do that. So there you go, man. Thank you for your question from LinkedIn. I hope I get some more. All right. What is question number 5? All right. What is question number 5 here? Hang on a second. All right. Number 5. Oh, it's another TikTok one from Happy202486. 2019 Cascadia X15. What would you charge to clean filters? And this is pretty straightforward. So, for the most part, if you're a typical Class 8 truck, unless you've got a Detroit engine with a one box, you're going to be looking at cleaning the DOC and the DPF. You always want to do both. And you're going to spend about $420 to clean both of them. 125 for the DOC, 295 for the DPF. And then whatever it would be for new gaskets. You always need new gaskets, and you almost always need new clamps. We always recommend replacing the clamps because we don't want to have any exhaust leaks, but definitely the gaskets. And I don't know, you're probably, all in to us, $600 or so, with parts. Now, I always say we do our work once everything's off the truck. So you would have your mechanic take it off the truck, or we'd introduce you to one of our friends who do the sort of work, and they would come pull the filters off the truck. We then take them and get them cleaned. The next day, the mechanic comes back, puts everything back on the truck, hooks up his computer, and then we'll reset your soot load and everything else. So keep an eye on the miles on that 2019 Cascadia with an X15. If you don't use an additive, I would say that you want to get that cleaned at around 300,000 miles. If you do use an additive um, and keep your truck well maintained, I mean, you should be able to go, 500,000 miles between cleanings. But rule of thumb is, yes, do it by miles to kind of get ahead of it and be proactive on it. But otherwise, if your truck kind of out of the blue calls for a parked regen, it's telling you that that DPF is getting full and it's time to clean it. The X15 has a very large filter. That thing is like this, bigger than my head, and my head's huge. And that thing can store a pretty good amount uh, of junk before it needs to be emptied. So if that truck's calling for a regen, it's telling you that for a reason. And if you think you can get by with just doing a parked regen, um, yes, you can, once, twice, three times, but eventually that parked regen will stop working. And you know how things work with trucks. Um, it will stop working when you're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, with a great big load. So, yeah, if it calls for a parked regen, think about coming to see us or one of our friends. All right, what's number 6? And people on TikTok, I'm not ignoring you. I will be with you momentarily. A number 6 from Justin W907. Do you believe that after 2012, the trucks all became throwaway trucks? You can't even grease them anymore. Non-greasable bushings, S-cams, U-joints, etc. Um, I mean, from what I've seen, they've definitely have been engineering trucks to be less serviceable. And, I don't think that's necessarily some grand conspiracy to get you to buy a new truck all the time. It could be a little bit. But they're trying to reduce the cost of the truck ultimately, um, and reduce the cost of manufacturing and everything else. And yeah, I was just at a friend's shop yesterday, and he's been a mechanic for a while and was underneath a box truck with his grease gun looking for grease fittings. He's like, "Where are they?" And I'm like, "I don't think they have them in a lot of places." He goes, "I can't believe that you can't even grease these things." So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a bummer. That's why when it comes to parts of your truck that you can maintain still, definitely be diligent about it. Vigilant, diligent, sumagent, making sure you do maintain the things you can. Again, make sure you keep your filters cleaned, use good oil, use a good additive, Clean Air Fleet. But yeah, I mean, it appears to be that trucks are really designed to last about 500,000 miles, and it doesn't mean you go right to the junkyard after that. But after 500,000 miles, there are certain things you're going to want to look at and not be surprised by. And if you maintain your truck, it'll last a long time, but they ain't built like they used to be. That is for sure, Justin. All right. What's number 7? Happy day. Okay. What do we got here? All right. Happy day 868 from TikTok. Um, so in other words, you will release carbon monoxide into the environment. And I think this is one of the, I get these questions or comments or, whatever they might be, where the people are really trying to say, oh, this after treatment is no good because all you're doing is just, moving, dirt from point A to point B and really doing anything. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely now it's um, if we do burn off some soot, there'd be some carbon dioxide there, just like when you burn diesel fuel, there's carbon dioxide. Um, but we don't release any of the soot into the environment. And by the time that we do bake every filter, and that makes sure that if there's any sort of microscopic particles embedded in the DPF substrate itself, we want to get that out because we want that thing to breathe just absolutely perfectly. And we want to make sure the filter is as clean as possible so that it has room, as much room as possible for more stuff. Because, I always tell people, I look forward to seeing you again, but not too soon. And so ideally, we want to keep it so that you can keep that truck on the road as long as possible. And um, yes, I know the industry recommendation, my industry says come in every 150,000 miles, get your DPF clean. And to me, that's good for my pocketbook, I guess. But especially if you own a large fleet and you're not sure how the trucks are driven, get it done beforehand. But realistically, if you take care of your truck, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to go 250, 300, 400, 500,000 miles between DPF cleanings. And that's why when someone comes in, they've got 700,000 miles in their truck, and they'll say, "Hey, when should I come see you again?" They kind of expect me to say, "Come in at 800,000," and I'm like, "You'll probably trade that truck in before you come see me again." So, um, yeah, I know this after treatment stuff is just a pain in the ass, but we try to make it as easy and as affordable and as little of a pain in the ass as possible. All right, question number 8. Big B. All right, what do we got from Big B here? Hang on a second here. How often do you need to clean? Oh, we were just talking about this. How often do you need to clean a filter DD15? Um, so the DD15, the DD13, DD15, the Detroits with the one box. The manufacturer's interval on that is 400,000 miles, and from what I've seen, that's a pretty solid. The one box can be a bit of a pain. It's a little complex, but they're real consistent. Um, and you should be able to go 400,000 miles on a one box between cleanings easily. I wouldn't push it much beyond 500,000. Now, keep in mind that many, many fleets, especially, for example, the big orange one from Green Bay that starts with an S and ends with an R, um, they've got a ton of Freightliner Cascadias with Detroit engines, but they're not the only one. So many fleets will sell their trucks at about 400,000 miles. And what'll happen is someone will buy that truck, then all of a sudden it gets to about 625,000 miles. And I'm sure there's probably somebody watching right now that's going, yeah, that's me. And all of a sudden your truck starts to, derate and, ask for all sorts of they start giving you high soot level issues and everything else. And I get calls from people like this on, several times a week, and they're normally, very worried that I buy a lemon and something wrong with my truck. I'm like, nope, you've got a good truck from a good company that's been well maintained, except they sold that truck at the point that the larger maintenance stuff like a DPF cleaning was due. And so you've got a good truck with the dirty one box, bring it in, get everything cleaned, and that thing will just fly. And they won't have to worry about it again until they hit practically a million miles. So if you happen to be one of the people that just bought a fleet truck with 400,000 miles on it, understand that kind of no matter what they tell you, the odds are that DPF hasn't been cleaned. Don't sweat it. Just get it cleaned and you'll be good. Or wait till the truck asks for it and just know it'll be coming. All right, question number 9. We're almost to the end. By Dazed 875 from TikTok. Oh yeah, I love these. Delete that shit and move on. If the government doesn't need to run it, I don't need to run it. White, right? Well, wrong. Yes, there is actually a statute for in the federal government that says tactical vehicles do not need to have after treatment. Now, many, many of the vehicles that are in service for the U.S. military were pre-emissions anyway. Built prior to right around the Gulf War. All that was pre-emissions. So no matter what, they wouldn't have emissions. Just like if you had a truck that was built before it was emissions were required, you wouldn't have emissions either. But there is a statute that says if it's a tactical vehicle, it does not have to comply with emission standards. It also doesn't have to have turn signals. It also doesn't have to have a light on the license plate. Doesn't need to have an airbag. Doesn't need to have seat belts. I mean, I can go on and on here. So it's really a false comparison. Um, and so, you know, this isn't about the government doesn't need to run it. The government does need to run it on everything that's not considered a tactical vehicle. So that means your fire engines have it, your ambulances have it, your snowplows have it, your buses have it. Um, your armored personnel carriers don't have it. It's just the nature of the beast. Um, but if you still want to saw your DPF off, that's between you and Greta Thunberg, right? So go nuts. I'm not here. I don't make the laws. I don't enforce the laws. I just allow you to stay compliant if you choose to in a way that is effective and is affordable as I can make it. All right. Last but not least, who's number 10 here? Mocha Time TikTok Live. This is from yesterday or not last week. It was, and of course, I encourage anybody, anybody that is on TikTok Live, right now with me, please ask some questions. We'll take good care of you. Thanks for the roses, man. I'm getting a lot of love on TikTok. It makes me feel warm inside. So last week, someone said I've got a 2016 Mac MP8, and this baby stopped using DEF. What can cause that? Well, I don't know if you want to fix that problem. If you don't have any codes, maybe just roll with it. But let me tell you a couple of things that can cause it, and things that you might want to look into because it might be a sign of something of a bigger issue. I mean, you could have something goofy with your ACM, your after treatment control module. That's what really is the brains behind, your DEF delivery and all that type of stuff. Your regens, and maybe it's just it's stuck and it's just not dosing DEF, or there might be something going on. Now, I'm not sure. Every truck's a little different with how it manages issues. But maybe, just maybe, there might be something wrong in your after treatment system, or your truck believes there's something wrong and it's saying, I'm not going to dose DEF because something might be damaged. Or you might have another thing that can happen. Again, I'm not sure if this is the case on the Mac MP8. There might be something with the quality of the DEF itself where it doesn't want to dose that DEF into the system because it doesn't want to damage the SCR. But if your truck is not issuing any codes and it's not derated and it's running okay for you, maybe count your blessings and keep running it. But again, it's something that I hope that there's not some bigger problem where the truck is not dosing DEF as a safety feature, and that'll bite you in the butt. But hey, if your truck's running good and you're not using DEF, that's one less thing, one less fluid you've got to put in your truck. So there you go. All right. And so if you need to get a hold of us, text or call 404-999-1361. But other than that, there you have it. Your questions, my answer. Thank you, everybody who has joined. Now, again, TikTok Live. I'm going to be talking to you in just a minute. So I'm going to go through some questions and answer those for YouTube as well. But I want to make sure that I spin the wheel and see who might have won something this week. Anyway, so what do we got? And make sure you subscribe to the DPF Guys YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, find us on TikTok, and follow us there. But hey, let's turn this off. And remember, we're going to be giving away a hat, my new hats. I've got some good compliments on there. And then we have, and we're going to also give away a DEF refractometer. I think everybody should have a DEF tester in their glove box. It can be a huge help for diagnosing issues, because if you're having after treatment issues and find out that you simply have some bad DEF, drain the DEF, put new stuff in, you're good to go. We sell those babies for about $15. I'm getting another batch of them in. I think I'm sold out right now, but I got more coming in. But anyway, so let's spin the wheel. The first one is for the DEF tester. Let's see who might win this thing. All right, Justin, you are the winner of the Def Tester. Congratulations. All right, let's see who wins the hat. Are you ready? This is exciting. Okay, Moko. All right, so we've got two lucky winners, one of a hat, one of a Def Tester. I'll send you a direct message um, and get your information so we can get that sent over to you. So anyway, so thanks for watching, and I'm going to check to see if I've got any comments that came in here quick. Hang on a minute. Oh, cool. We got some there here. Clinton Kirker, welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, the all right, now this is going to be fun. Hang on a second. I got to wet my whistle. I hate having a dry whistle. Mm. Jeremy, if you're watching, love the Yeti. All right. Clinton Kirker. So Clinton is a interesting gentleman, drives team with his wife and his two hairless cats. I honestly thought when he came to the shop, I thought he had a monkey on his shoulder. But Clinton is the one who introduced me to Clean Air Fleet. He contacted me probably about a year ago and had a very simple question during one of these lives. And he said, "Hey, I've got 400 more than 400,000 miles on my truck. Again, it's a Freightliner X15 Cummins engine." And he said, "I've got over 400,000 miles in this truck, and I have never had to do a park regen. Is there something I'm should worry about? And, or is there a problem?" I can't remember what he said exactly. Now, I think he might have been kind of humble bragging a little bit, but I said, "You have nothing to worry about. I have something to worry about, because if everybody had a truck like you and took care of it, I wouldn't make any money." But I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I use this additive." What's the additive? It's Clean Air Fleet. He also uses 100% synthetic motor oil from Amsoil, um, which based upon people's experience from, has been very good. Um, and after hearing about Clean Air Fleet, I did some research. I met with the company and everything. Really liked what I heard and what I saw. So we began selling Clean Air Fleet. So Clinton, as always, thank you. I think right now, Clinton Kirker has got, um, you know, he's pushing 600,000 miles without ever having to do a DPF cleaning or a parked regen. So I'll see him eventually, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure when. But Clinton, you know where to find us, and it would be our honor to clean your DPF when and if that should ever happen. All right, Larry Shorb, what do you got here? Larry Shorb, thank you very much. Um, all right, Larry, drivers should raise RPM instead of idling to prevent oil stacking. Now, I am a DPF guy. I don't work on engines, so I don't know what oil stacking is. But Larry is a smart boy. He needs a. If I haven't sent you a hat, Larry, I need to send you a hat because you're a member of the DPF Guys Smart Boy Club. Um, but um, Oil stacking apparently is an issue that can be resolved with increasing RPM. And then I guess the question I would have is, can you increase the RPM as a driver, or do you have to go to the shop? Um, all right, what else do we have here? Cool beans. All right, now I'm going to get over to TikTok here and let's see what we got for questions. Hopefully, you've been patient and didn't go away, so I can answer your question live. Also, the questions that come in on TikTok will get entered into the drawing for next week, by the way. Thank you for all liking the live. That's much appreciated. All right, what do we got here? Brian Bond, he's a rock star. Trucker World, thanks for all your support. All right, hang with me here as I scroll through these. I know I had a couple of questions. Okay, this is one. I'm going to save this for next week because I can answer in more detail. I don't, have you heard of anyone using the Rise Loan Def additive to prevent crystallization? Um, no, and I would, again, just in my, humble opinion here, um, I would say that eh, it'd be kind of a snake oily thing because Def has to be 32.5% urea and 63.5% or 68.5%, or what is it? 67. 30 whatever. Oh man, I'm brain farting here on a Sunday. But that's all it is. It's two components, water and urea. Um, and and that's it. You really, anything else you add, I think is be more of a placebo. Um, so I if you have a problem with depth crystallization, you probably have something else going on. Kind of like when you go to the auto parts store and they're like, "Oh, here's this thing you put in your, your in your oil to keep your oil from leaking, or put in your transmission to keep your transmission from leaking." Um, that stuff is you're really treating the symptom and not the problem. Um, I don't think that depth crystallization shouldn't be an issue. And if you're getting depth crystallization, I don't know if any additive can possibly help that. But you might want to look to see what might be causing it. Um, it can be something as simple as an exhaust leak or a def pump issue, or having some junk built up on the tip of your def doser that's causing you not to spray properly and crystallize. Um, thank you for all the likes. Planned obsolescence. It's I'm less worried about planned obsolescence because that's not going to get any better. It's again, I don't know if it's so much planned obsolescence, like somebody had a meeting going, "Hey, how do we get this truck to break after this many miles?" It's just saying, what's the cost benefit? You think about if you think like a manufacturer, if the truck is designed to last for 20 years, they have to keep parts in stock for that long. They have to keep people trained that long. I mean, there's just a lot of things where they're going, "Hey, I just want my job to be easier." And the problem is that, you know, for the manufacturer to make an engineer to make their job easier, they have to make your life harder. And I don't know much to, what you can do about that. My biggest thing that I'm worried about is right to repair. Um, as whether it be, trucks or tractors or whatever it is, have become more computerized, or almost like, it's less mechanical and more software. Um, even if something was mechanical and really wasn't designed to repair, you can always make a special tool, you can get in there somehow, you can make replacement parts. But if it's reliant on software and there is stuff hidden in the fine print that says you're not allowed to hook this up or do this, um, more and more it's happening where they can brick your truck or your tractor, and that to me is just simply immoral. I think you should have the right to repair your stuff, um, and and understand that if you break it, that's on you. But to be just saying, nope, you're not allowed to do this because you have to take it here, and somebody with the appropriate USB stick dongle or password or whatever can do it. To me, that seems unfair. But that's just me. Um, Trucker World, thanks for all your likes. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. You tap on my big noggin here a couple of times and give me a heart on my face. And the I appreciate it. All right, what else we got here? Clinton Kirker, thanks for the ice cream cone. That was very refreshing. Yeah, um, I like salty caramel. Hmm. The is that DPF slash DPD? I don't know exactly what you mean, Oliver. I don't know if you're still on or not. DPF is a diesel particulate filter, and a DPD, I'm not sure what that is. Um, does it stand for Diddy Party Day? Because every day is a Diddy Party Day. Um, what else we got here? Yes, Clinton, stick around. Be able to answer your question. Thank you for your support. I love it. Um, the Yes, we're available statewide. Where you've got affiliate shops. There's about 40 of us in the nation. So, um, But if you can make it to Atlanta, you get to be taken care of by me or somebody better looking than me. I know it's hard to believe that someone's better looking than me. Oh man, I wish there was a better way to search for questions here. So we got a guy with a Hyundai Star X with an SCR fault. Let me see what a Hyundai. Let me look at this quick. I'm going to look at the Star X. Oh, it's a little van. Um, used ride 2.5 liter heat fill. Interesting. It's naturally aspirated. It doesn't have a turbo. So that's only in the European market or the Asian market. I would be willing to bet that an SCR fault on something like that is probably a sensor. Um, and you'd have to dig a little bit more into that. But Oliver, I would guess sensor. That's what I'm thinking, or maybe a harness thing. Might have a loose cable or a short in your harness, but I'm guessing it's a sensor. SCRs are generally pretty bomb proof, except for on 2014, 2015, and 2016 Freightliners. Mm, um, all right, I have to look this one up. James, I'm going to pin your comment. Let's take a look here. I love this stuff. All right, what do we got here? We've got a code, P2002 code. It looks like a 6.7 Cummins. Is that a Cummins? Stroke? Okay, so for your P2002, you might need a little more information than that, but it could mean you have a dirty DPF. I clear it and can run about 500 miles or so. I am thinking that your DPF is full, or you might have a bad pressure differential sensor. But if your truck has got a few 100,000 miles, a couple 100,000 miles on it, you idle a decent amount. Um, the you've got. I'm thinking you might be due for a DPF cleaning. We can clean the DPFs on that. Well, I don't know if we got if it's a Ford, but anyway, so yeah, we can definitely clean that. Medium duty, we can totally clean. Um, okay, this is a great one. How soon can I get an appointment to get a filter cleaned? Come in tomorrow. Um, we would need to know what sort of truck you have, that sort of thing. If you PM me your phone number, I can text you the fast field form for you to fill out, and that will get you all of our information into the system, all of your information in the system, and I can decide where we send you. If you've got a Class 8, a big truck, um, come right to us. The mechanic will meet you there and do the work. If you've got a medium duty truck, a pickup truck, Ram 2500, 3500, F250, 350, etc., we would send you someplace else that works on the medium duty stuff. But I tell you what, if you wanted to be turned around in a day, come in tomorrow and you'll be out the door on Tuesday. All right, code 3251. Let's see what we got here. That'll vary depending upon if you got a Freightliner or a Cummins. Let's see here. You 3251, new sensors and filters. Interesting. Um, you might have I'm not sure. Is this a Detroit engine? Freightliner. Okay. Um, did you replace your temperature or not your temp sensors, but your pressure differential sensors? But it could also be that you've got one or two hoses, depending upon the year of the truck, that are about that long. Um, little silicone hoses that hook up your pressure differential sensor to the stainless steel pipe, and those can get rotten and brittle, and can leak or can be. And so it could be something as simple as a hose. And as we all know, hose ain't nothing but trouble. But I would check your hose. Um, and then also just make sure that the sensors are hooked up right and everything else. Um, and keep in mind that one of the reasons you might have a pressure differential issue could be because your DPFs are fine, but you have a soot load on the inlet side of your DOC, which can also throw off your pressure differential. So check your hose, um, because hose ain't nothing but trouble. First, it's very cheap. And then they're like 20 bucks a piece if you replace them. Um, and you could replace them yourself. They're not hard to get at. Um, and then if your hose look good, um, then I would look to see what the actual pressure numbers are. You might have a face plug DPF or not DPF. Sorry, not a face plug. You can have a face plug DPF. I don't think that's the case with you. You might have a face plug DOC that can also throw off that thing. So and we prefer to clean the entire one box off the truck, but we can clear a face plug DOC without actually taking the one box off the truck. You have to bring it in, and it's called a whippersnapper that we actually put in there, and it wipes around inside there, and the that will, oh, for God's sake, no, um, that will knock that face plug off. Okay, when I change a DPF filter, okay, this is a great question. This is a great question, Grant. Thanks for asking this. It's a simple question, but it's a great question. Um, So when I change a DPF filter on a Peterbilt 389, what do the flow and alignment arrows actually mean? So the flow arrows really don't even need to be on there because they'll only go together one way. Um, the you know the in There's going to be an inlet side and an outlet side. That's important for where the sensors are located, that sort of stuff. But there's no way to put them together wrong. But the flow arrow is handy, so you know which direction. Obviously, it's going to be facing, the flow is going to go from the engine out the exhaust. And The alignment arrows are helpful because, um, depending upon where the sensors are located, everything else, I mean, they can be completely misaligned and they'll still work like a DPF. But if you align them correctly, then your sensors will all fit, and it will fit perfectly in um, the back in the truck. We normally will mark them with a paint marker to make sure we align them again. But I don't, you really can't put a DPF in backwards. Not without not without working really hard. Um, so yeah, there you go. Kenworth 990 with an X15, 380,000 miles on it, very low idle time. Um, and again, you probably never had to do a park gen. Um, that X15 is a pretty solid engine and pretty good after treatment. I would recommend using an additive on that truck. It really does like the additive. Clean Air Fleet's great. And or Pittsburgh Power, or Hot Shot Secret. But I like Clean Air Fleet the best. Um, so keep it, if it's not causing trouble for you, don't worry about it. Um, so Chicago, um, come on in. Just make sure you send us a message with your number. If you want to text us, Chicago, write this down: 404-999-1361, 404-999-1361. Just text me and say, hey, this is Chicago, Go Large Car, or Chicago Large Car. And we will text you the forms you need, and um, you'll be good to go. Why does my inlet not have pressure? If I'm guessing you've got trouble with your hose, maybe in more ways than one. So I would check your hose for a crack, um, and that could very well be the issue. Um, or when they replaced your pressure differential sensor, they did not replace um, the little clip that holds that hose in place, and you just have an air leak there, and it's not reading pressure correctly. I'm thinking that's probably it. All right. Oh man, we'll tell you, Clinton Kirker, I shout out to you as like a boss. Um, my lovely wife is on. Maria went. Are you still there? Love you a bunch. I'm hungry. But yeah, so I kind of figured with that many miles, Chicago large car, um, I'm like, you've got to be using an additive because your truck is just cooking. So if you're using Pittsburgh Power and you like it and it works well for you, keep on using it. But save my number 404-999-1361 because eventually you'll need to come see me, and it might be next year, but come and see me then. All right. I am going to save some of these questions via screenshot so that you guys can be entered into the drawing. But anyway, so everybody, I want to say thank you. Do I sell piston return spray? I can get them, Brian. I don't know um, like, I work on the after treatment, man. I don't work on the up in the engine, but James would know, and I can find out for you. But anyway, on that note, I am going to. I'm super hungry, and so I'm going to go get something to eat. Thank you, everybody. No matter where you're watching, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or LinkedIn, you guys all are awesome. I really appreciate you watching. And I'm going to say good night. And if you have any questions for me, you know how to get a hold of me. Text me 404-999-1361 and definitely ask about the bacon stretcher. I need a bacon stretcher. You're a bacon stretcher. But text me at 404-999-1361. Ask me about the additive. I'm always happy to share that story. And I can always introduce you to someone like Clinton or Brian, who is a happy user of the additive. But so thank you very much. And I'm going to jump off the air here. And